Mike Tyson's fist went through the drywall before he even made it past the hallway. His knuckles came back white with plaster dust, and he stood there in his dead grandfather's house, chest heaving, staring at a hole the size of a grapefruit 3 feet from the front door. What happened in the next 72 hours inside that crumbling brownstone would become Brooklyn legend, a story whispered about for decades. The kind of thing old-timers in Brownsville still bring up when somebody mentions Tyson's name, and they don't mean the fights, they mean what he found behind those walls. Let me take you back. It was March 1988. Mike Tyson was 21 years old. He was the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, the youngest man to ever hold all 3 belts simultaneously. He had 34 wins, 0 losses, and more money than he could burn through in 100 lifetimes. His face was on cereal boxes. His name was on every marquee from Atlantic City to Tokyo. He owned a mansion in Connecticut with a tiger in the yard, and right now, none of that mattered. His grandfather, Lorna May's husband, a man everyone in the neighborhood called Mr. Kirkpatrick, had died 11 days earlier. Heart attack in the kitchen, dropped dead holding a cup of coffee at 6 in the morning, the mug shattered on the linoleum. Nobody found him for 2 days. Tyson got the call while he was training in the Catskills. He didn't say a word. He just set the phone down on the counter, pulled off his gloves, walked out of the gym, and drove 4 hours south to Brooklyn without telling anyone where he was going. Believe me, that alone should tell you something. 'Cause here's the thing nobody talks about when they tell the Mike Tyson story. Everyone knows Cus D'Amato. Everyone knows about the pigeons, the street robberies, the juvenile detention. But almost nobody knows about Mr. Kirkpatrick. And what Tyson found in that house explains more about who he became than any fight he ever had. When Tyson pulled up to the house on Amboy Street, the block looked exactly the way it did when he was 12. Same cracked sidewalks, same chain-link fences sagging in the middle, same bodega on the corner with the faded awning. The only difference was the yellow notice taped to Mr. Kirkpatrick's front door. City code violation, overdue utilities, a property lien notice from the borough. Tyson ripped all 3 papers off the door without reading them. He tried the knob, locked. He stepped back and kicked it open with one shot. The frame splintered, the deadbolt tore through the wood, and the door swung inward and hit the wall. That's when the smell hit him. Not death. Not that. The body had already been removed. This was different. This was the smell of a man who had stopped caring. Old newspapers stacked from floor to waist level. Trash bags piled in the living room. Dishes in the sink crusted over with mold so thick it looked like carpet. The windows hadn't been opened in what must have been months. The air inside was thick and warm and wrong. Tyson's jaw tightened. He pulled his shirt over his nose and stepped inside. Now, Mr. Kirkpatrick wasn't Tyson's biological grandfather. Let me be clear about that. He was the man married to Lorna May, Tyson's mother's mother. But when Tyson was a boy, before Cus D'Amato entered the picture, before boxing, before any of it, Mr. Kirkpatrick was the only man in Tyson's life who never hit him, never screamed at him, never made him feel small. Every other adult male in young Mike's orbit was either violent, absent, or both. Kirkpatrick was the one who would sit on the porch and talk to him. Quiet man, didn't say much. But when he spoke directly to the boy, not past him. Get this. Tyson once told a reporter, years later, that Mr. Kirkpatrick was the only person who ever made him feel like he wasn't garbage before Cus. His exact word, garbage. A future world champion said that. So now he's standing in this man's destroyed house, and he's looking around, and something is breaking inside him. Not the dramatic kind of breaking you see in movies, the slow kind. The kind where your breathing changes and your hands go still and you don't move for a full minute. Then Tyson moved. He grabbed a trash bag from the roll under the sink and started cleaning. No crew, no entourage. No one from his management team even knew he was there. He was in a white t-shirt and jeans, and he was filling garbage bags one at a time, dragging them out to the curb, coming back in, and filling more. By the end of the first hour, he'd cleared the kitchen. By the end of the second hour, he'd gutted the living room. That's when he found the first box. It was wedged behind the couch, a beat-up cardboard box with no label. Water damage on 2 sides. Tyson almost threw it away. He picked it up, felt the weight, and something shifted inside. He set it on the cleared kitchen counter and pulled the flaps open. I swear this happened. Inside were letters, dozens of them. Handwritten letters in envelopes with stamps that had never been licked, every single one addressed to the same person, Michael Gerard Tyson, Catskill, New York. Tyson stared. He picked up the first envelope, his name in blue ballpoint pen, careful block letters, the handwriting of a man who didn't write often but tried hard when he did. The return address was this house, this exact house he was standing in. He opened it. Dear Michael, I watched your fight on the television last night, the one against that big fellow from Texas. You knocked him down so fast I almost missed it. I had to rewind the tape 3 times. Your grandmother says I'm wearing out the VCR. I just wanted to tell you I'm proud of you. You were always a good boy even when things were bad. I know you probably don't remember me saying that, but I said it. I'm saying it now. I hope you're eating enough. Love, Mr. K. Tyson set the letter down on the counter. His hand was shaking, not a little, visibly. The heavyweight champion of the world had hands that could generate 1,700 pounds of force per square inch, and they were trembling over a piece of notebook paper. He opened another one. Dear Michael, happy birthday. I know it was 3 weeks ago, but I didn't have a stamp. I do now, but I don't have your address right. The one Lorna gave me keeps coming back. Maybe you moved. I got you something, but I'll keep it here for when you visit. I made you a frame for that newspaper clipping, the one where they called you the baddest man. I put it in the hallway. Love, Mr. K. Tyson looked up from the letter. He turned toward the hallway. There it was, a cheap wooden frame, hand-cut, slightly uneven, hanging on a nail next to the bathroom door. Inside was a newspaper clipping from the Daily News. The headline read, Kid Dynamite destroys Berbick, youngest heavyweight champ ever. The edges of the paper had yellowed, but the frame was clean, dust-free, which meant the old man had been wiping it down regularly, even as the rest of the house fell apart around him. Here's what nobody tells you. Tyson hadn't visited this house in over 4 years. He'd gotten famous, gotten rich, gotten swallowed by the machine. His schedule was controlled by promoters, managers, trainers, television networks, and an army of people who decided where he went, who he saw, and how long he stayed. And somewhere in that machine, a quiet old man in Brownsville who never asked for anything got forgotten. Tyson sat down on the kitchen floor, not on a chair, on the floor, back against the cabinets, the box of letters in his lap. He opened every single one. There were 43 letters in that box, spanning 5 years. Not one of them had ever been mailed successfully. Some had been returned with addressee unknown stamped in red. Some had never been sent at all, the envelopes sealed but never stamped. A few were just folded pieces of paper with no envelope, as if Mr. Kirkpatrick had started writing, run out of envelopes, and just kept going anyway, folding the letters and putting them in the box like someday, somehow, they'd find their way to Mike. Every letter said some version of the same thing. I watched you. I'm proud of you. I hope you're doing okay. Come visit if you can. Not once did the old man ask for money. Not once did he mention his own struggles. And from the state of the house, those struggles were significant. The plumbing was failing. The heat was inconsistent. There were holes in the ceiling where the roof had leaked and been patched with newspaper and duct tape. Mr. Kirkpatrick had been poor, seriously poor, and he'd never said a word about it. Now listen to me, because this is where the story shifts. Tyson stood up from that kitchen floor. He wasn't crying. His eyes were dry. But something in his posture had changed. If you've ever seen old fight footage, you know the stance. The way Tyson would drop his chin and bring his shoulders up right before he detonated. It wasn't anger this time. It was decision. Something had locked into place behind his eyes and it wasn't coming unlocked. He walked to the front door, stepped onto the porch, and made one phone call. I need a construction crew at this address by tomorrow morning. Full renovation, everything. Roof, plumbing, electrical, floors, walls. I want it done in 30 days. The voice on the other end started asking questions. Tyson hung up. Then he made another call. This one was different. Rory. That was Rory Holloway, one of his inner circle. I need you to find out every house on this block that's in the same condition as this one. Every single one. I want addresses by Friday. Holloway started to respond. Tyson cut him off. Just do it. He hung up again and went back inside. He had more cleaning to do. This is important to understand, because what Tyson did over the next 3 days was not a publicity stunt. There were no cameras, no reporters, no press releases. He didn't tell Don King. He didn't tell HBO. He told nobody. The only people who knew were the ones who lived on that block, and for years most of them didn't even realize it was Mike Tyson doing it. By day 2, Tyson had cleared the entire house. Every room, every closet, every corner. He'd carried out 17 trash bags. He'd scrubbed the kitchen and bathroom by hand. He'd ripped up the damaged carpet in the bedroom and rolled it out to the curb himself. And he'd found more things. In the bedroom closet, behind a row of old coats that still smelled faintly of aftershave, there was a shoebox. Inside the shoebox were photographs, not of family, not of friends. Every photograph was of Mike Tyson, newspaper clippings, magazine covers, and a few actual photographs that someone had taken of a television screen during Tyson's fights. You could see the scan lines in the images. The camera flash reflected off the TV glass. This man had literally photographed his television set to capture images of Mike fighting. Trust me when I tell you this. Tyson sat on that bare bedroom floor for 20 minutes looking at those photos. 20 minutes. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just sat there holding a stack of blurry Polaroids taken by an old man who didn't know how to work a camera but tried anyway, because he wanted to remember every single fight. Then, at the bottom of the shoebox, he found something else. A small leather pouch, cracked and faded, cinched shut with a drawstring. Inside were 3 things: a military service medal, a folded piece of paper, and a ring. The medal was a bronze star. Mr. Kirkpatrick had served in Korea. He'd never told anyone, never mentioned it. No one in the family knew. There were no pictures of him in uniform anywhere in the house. No stories, nothing. Now, here's the part that will stop you cold. The folded piece of paper was a letter, but not one written by Mr. Kirkpatrick. This one was written to him. It was from the United States Army, dated 1953. It was a commendation letter describing an action in which Corporal Kirkpatrick had pulled 2 wounded soldiers from a burning transport vehicle under enemy fire near the Chosin Reservoir. One of the men he saved lost both legs. The other lost an eye. Both survived because of what Kirkpatrick did. Tyson read that letter 3 times. The ring was a wedding band, simple gold, engraved on the inside with 2 sets of initials and a date. It was Mr. Kirkpatrick's ring. He'd taken it off at some point, maybe when his hands swelled in old age, maybe when Lorna May passed. Tyson didn't know, but the old man had kept it in that pouch with his medal and his commendation, the 3 most important things he owned, and he'd hidden them in a shoebox in a closet in a house that was falling apart. A war hero who saved 2 men's lives was living in a house with newspapers stuffed in the ceiling. Think about that. Sit with it for a second. Tyson didn't sit with it. He got up and he did something about it. Day 3. The construction crew showed up. 4 trucks, 12 guys, enough material to rebuild the house from the studs out. Tyson was waiting on the porch in the same jeans and white t-shirt, which by now was gray with grime and torn at the collar. He shook hands with the foreman. He walked the crew through every room. He pointed out every problem he'd found. Then he said something that made the foreman stop writing on his clipboard. "When you're done with this one, I want you to do 6 more houses on this street." The foreman looked at him. 6 more? Maybe more. Rory's getting me the list. You hearing this? The heavyweight champion of the world was standing in Brownsville, Brooklyn, commissioning the renovation of an entire block of houses. Not through a foundation, not through a publicist, through a guy named Rory and a construction foreman with a clipboard, and nobody knew. The neighbors started figuring it out on day 4. An older woman named Dolores, who lived 3 doors down, came out on her porch and watched the trucks going back and forth. She recognized Tyson. She came over, moving slow with a cane, and stood at the bottom of the steps. "Michael? That you?" Tyson came down the steps. He didn't just say hello. He hugged her. Full embrace. This woman had known him when he was a kid. She used to give him popsicles on hot days when nobody else on the block would even look at him because he was that bad kid. "Miss Dolores, your roof leaking?" She stared at him. "Baby, my roof been leaking since Carter was president. Not anymore." He added her house to the list. Over the next month, Tyson quietly funded the renovation of 9 houses on that block. New roofs, new plumbing, new electrical, repainted. Some got new windows. One got a completely new front porch. He spent somewhere north of $400,000. which in 1988 was a staggering amount of money for residential work in Brownsville. And remember, this was a neighborhood that most of New York had written off. The city wasn't putting money here. Nobody with resources was paying attention, except a 21-year-old boxer who'd found a box of unmailed letters in a dead man's house. But here's the thing, and this is critical to the story. This isn't the part that changed his life. No. What changed his life was what happened on the last day he spent in that house, after the renovation was complete, when he went back one final time to do a walkthrough. The house looked completely different. New walls, fresh paint, hardwood floors, modern kitchen, updated bathroom, the whole thing. It could have been a showroom. Tyson walked through every room, running his hand along the walls, checking corners, looking at details. He was alone. No crew, no friends, just him and the house. He ended up in the hallway, and he stopped, because the construction crew had taken down the hand-cut wooden frame, the one Mr. Kirkpatrick had made, the one with the newspaper clipping. It was leaning against the baseboard, set aside during the renovation, forgotten in the chaos of reconstruction. Tyson picked it up. He turned it over, and on the back, written in pencil so faint you'd miss it unless you were holding it 6 inches from your face, were 4 words. "My boy did good." That's it. 4 words, written on the back of a cheap homemade picture frame by a man who never told anyone he was a war hero, never asked anyone for help, never sent a single one of his 43 letters, but kept every newspaper clipping, photographed his television screen during fights, and built a frame by hand so he could look at that headline every day when he walked past the bathroom. My boy did good. Tyson's knees buckled. He caught himself on the wall with one hand, the frame in his other hand, his forehead pressed against the fresh paint. And for the first time in 3 days, his eyes were not dry. Let me tell you what this meant, because it's bigger than a frame. Mike Tyson, at 21, was surrounded by people who wanted things from him. Every person in his life had an angle. Promoters wanted his fists. Managers wanted his signature. Women wanted his fame. Reporters wanted his quotes. Everyone wanted a piece. Everyone was pulling. And in the middle of all that pulling, the one person who wanted nothing, who only wanted to say, "I'm proud of you," and couldn't even get a letter delivered, died alone on a kitchen floor holding a cup of coffee. That realization hit Tyson harder than any punch he'd ever taken. And he'd been hit by some serious punchers. But this wasn't a blow to the body. This was a fracture somewhere deeper, in a place that doesn't heal clean. He stood in that hallway for a long time. Then he straightened up, took the frame, took the shoebox of photographs, took the box of letters, and took the leather pouch with the bronze star, the commendation letter, and the wedding ring. He carried all of it to his car. He hung that frame in his bedroom in his Connecticut mansion, right next to his championship belts. And for years, anyone who visited that bedroom and saw it would ask what it was. Tyson never explained it. He'd just look at it and change the subject. But here's what happened next, and this is what made it legendary. Tyson went back to Brownsville. Not once, not twice. He kept going back, quietly, consistently. He started funding a community program through a local church. No press, no branding, just money and presence. He'd show up, sit with kids, talk to them, tell them things he wished someone had told him. Not boxing stuff, life stuff. He'd tell them to call their grandparents. He'd tell them to check on the old people on their block. He'd tell them the people who love you the most are the ones who never ask for anything. Mark my words. That last line wasn't something he read in a book. That was something he learned from a box of 43 letters that never arrived. Now, did this save Mike Tyson from everything that came after? No. We know the story. The marriage to Robin Givens fell apart. The relationship with Don King became toxic. The loss to Buster Douglas. The conviction. The prison sentence. The ear. The bankruptcy. The spiral. All of it still happened. But people who were close to Tyson during the worst periods of his life say there was always a thread. A small, quiet thing that kept him tethered when everything else was flying apart. And that thread was a leather pouch, a stack of letters, and a frame with 4 words written in pencil on the back. In 2003, during one of the lowest points of his life, when he was broke, depressed, and publicly humiliated, Tyson did an interview where the reporter asked him what kept him going. Tyson was quiet for a long time, long enough that the reporter thought the interview was over. Then Tyson said, "There was a man who believed in me when believing in me got you nothing. No money, No clout, nothing. He just believed. And he never got to tell me to my face. I gotta carry that. Every day I gotta carry that. So I keep going because stopping would mean he was wrong about me. And he wasn't wrong. The reporter asked who he was talking about. Tyson shook his head. You don't need to know his name. I know his name. That's enough. That's the quote, by the way. Word for word. You can find the interview. Most people skip right past it because the headline was about something else entirely. Nobody in the media cared about an unnamed old man from Brooklyn. They wanted to talk about the fights, the scandals, the spectacle. But Tyson cared, and he never stopped caring. In 2015, Tyson was filming his one-man show. He'd gotten sober, found some peace, rebuilt himself into something resembling whole. During rehearsal, the director asked him to bring a personal item on stage, something that meant something to him, something real. Tyson brought the frame. He set it on a small table on the stage. He didn't reference it during the show. He didn't explain it to the audience. It just sat there, facing him, so he could see it from wherever he stood on that stage. After the show, a stagehand asked him about it. Tyson picked up the frame, turned it around, and showed the stagehand the pencil writing on the back. My boy did good. The stagehand read it and looked up at Tyson. And here's the moment. The quiet power line. The one that stops everything. Tyson looked at that frame and said, he was the only one who never needed me to win. That's it. 9 words. And if you understand those 9 words, you understand more about Mike Tyson than 1,000 hours of fight tape will ever teach you. If this story hit you somewhere, if you felt something in your chest just now, then you already know why this channel exists. We find these stories, the ones that don't make the highlight reels, the ones that matter. So subscribe, hit the bell, because next week I've got one that's going to take your breath away. Now let me finish this. In 2019, Tyson returned to Brownsville for a community event. The block on Amboy Street had changed. Some of the houses he'd renovated had been sold, resold, knocked down, rebuilt. The neighborhood had shifted in the way all neighborhoods shift over 30 years. But 3 of the original houses were still standing, including Mr. Kirkpatrick's. A young family lived there now. They had no idea who had paid for the renovation decades earlier. They just knew it was a solid house, good bones, well built. Tyson stood on the sidewalk across the street and looked at it. He didn't go in. He didn't knock on the door. He didn't introduce himself. He just stood there for about 5 minutes, hands in his jacket pockets, looking at a house that used to have newspapers stuffed in the ceiling and a dead man's coffee mug shattered on the linoleum. Someone in his entourage asked if he wanted to go inside. No, Tyson said. It's not my house. It's his house. It was always his house. He got back in the car and left. But here's the final piece, the part that ties it all together. The part that makes this a legend and not just a sad story about a famous guy and his dead grandfather. That bronze star? Tyson had it authenticated. He tracked down military records. He confirmed everything in the commendation letter. Corporal Kirkpatrick had indeed pulled 2 men from a burning vehicle under fire. One of those men, the one who'd lost both legs, was still alive, living in a VA facility in Virginia. He was 87 years old. Tyson went to see him. He walked into that VA facility, found the old soldier's room, and sat down next to his wheelchair. The man had no idea who Mike Tyson was. Didn't follow boxing, didn't watch TV much. He was just an old man with no legs, living out his final years in a government facility. Tyson told him his name, told him about Mr. Kirkpatrick, told him that the man who saved his life in Korea had spent his last years in a falling-apart house in Brooklyn, writing letters to a boxer who never received them, photographing a television screen with a disposable camera, and hiding a bronze star in a shoebox like it was nothing. The old soldier started to cry. He told Tyson something nobody else knew. He told him that after Korea, he'd tried to find Kirkpatrick, to thank him, to tell him what it meant. He'd written letters, he'd made phone calls. But Kirkpatrick had moved, changed addresses, disappeared into civilian life the way a lot of veterans did back then. They lost each other. For 40 years, this man had carried the weight of an undelivered thank you. 2 men who owed everything to Mr. Kirkpatrick. One a legless veteran, one a world champion. Both sitting in a VA room in Virginia, both holding an unsent letter in their hearts, both wrecked by the same quiet man who never asked for recognition. Tyson gave the old soldier Mr. Kirkpatrick's wedding ring. He placed it in the man's hand and closed his fingers around it. "He would have wanted you to have something of his," Tyson said. "You were important to him even if he couldn't find you." The old soldier held that ring and pressed it against his chest. Tyson stood up. He squeezed the man's shoulder, and he walked out. On the drive home, Tyson called Rory Holloway. He asked if the block in Brownsville still had that community program running through the church. Holloway said it had shut down a few years back. "Funding issues. Restart it," Tyson said. "Name it after Kirkpatrick. Don't put my name on anything." The program reopened 6 months later, the Kirkpatrick Community Initiative. It focused on elderly residents in Brownsville who were living alone. Meal deliveries, home repairs, regular check-ins, the exact kind of help that might have caught a man before he collapsed in his kitchen with no one to find him for 2 days. It ran for 7 years before it merged with a larger nonprofit. During those 7 years, it served over 400 elderly residents in central Brooklyn. Not one of them died alone and undiscovered, not one. And almost nobody knew Mike Tyson was behind it, because that was the whole point. Here's the truth about this story, and then I'm done. People think Mike Tyson's life was shaped by the ring, by Cus D'Amato, by Don King, by the women, the money, the chaos, the comebacks. And all of that is true. All of that is part of the mythology. But underneath all of it, underneath the knockouts and the scandals and the tiger and the face tattoo and every single thing you think you know about this man, there is a box of 43 letters that never arrived. There is a wooden frame with 4 words in pencil. There is a bronze star hidden in a shoebox. And there is a 21-year-old kid on his knees in a hallway, pressing his forehead against a freshly painted wall, holding the only proof that someone once loved him without conditions. That's not a boxing story. That's a human story. And it's real. Mr. Kirkpatrick never saw his letters delivered. He never got to sit ringside. He never got to shake Mike's hand and say the words he wrote 43 times. But his boy did good. And somewhere in a mansion in Connecticut, on a wall between 2 championship belts, there's a cheap wooden frame holding a yellowed newspaper clipping. And if you turn it over, you can still read the pencil on the back, faded now, barely visible, but still there. My boy did good. That's the legend. That's the story. And now you know it too.